very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha Television, the perfect show to kickstart your day, bringing you the top national, international, sports and business news. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us start the bulletin with the headlines. Pakistan Army rules out consular access to Kulbhushan Yadav, dismisses a compromise on the issue. New Delhi says no communication from Pakistan on denial of consular access. Tamil Nadu ministers' emergency meeting today to discuss merger of two AIADMK factions. This after Chief Minister O. Selvam flags unity proposal. Students hit streets across valley, clash with police and paramilitary forces. All schools and colleges in the valley shut. Home Ministry tells forces to use pellet guns only as last resort. CBI closes in on Trinamool in Narada case probe. FIR launched against 12 party leaders and officials for alleged corruption. And tensions rise in Korean Peninsula. North Korea warns of nuclear war possibility. Says it will continue to test missiles after US says its patience with Pyongyang was over. First up, the big developing story coming in what can be called as a major hint towards sewing up an unprecedented merger between the two warring factions of the AIADMK. The Sasikala and OPS camp met late on Monday night to discuss and deliberate over the possibility of their unification. While State Finance and Fisheries Minister D. Jayakumar hinted about this development after the meeting, while two parallel meetings were held at the residences of two state ministers, Thangamani and Udumalai Radhakrishnan. Now, there is a possibility that the reunited party will then claim for the AIADMK symbol of two leaves. Well, the development came on a day when the Delhi police booked Sasikala's AIADMK faction leader TTV Dinakaran for allegedly trying to bribe an election commission official in a failed bid to obtain the party symbol. Meanwhile, the former Chief Minister O. Selvam had earlier expressed confidence that the TTV Dinakaran-led faction leaders would approach him for merger talks. Well, the MLAs belonging to the two camps are expected to hold a meeting in Chennai today and discuss the merger.
We are ready to whatever the talks actually between OPS and ours means we welcome. OPS opened, we are ready means we are also ready for that. Morning our Deputy Speaker Parliament clearly told that it's a welcome message. So we actually stick on to that.
Well, on to some other news now, and this coming in from West Bengal. Well, the CBI on Monday booked 12 top TMC leaders, including MPs and ministers, in connection with the Narada sting operation case. Well, the list comprises of who's who of TMC leadership and also an IPS officer. Well, the TMC leaders against whom the CBI has registered the FIR include Rajya Sabha MP Mukul Roy, Lok Sabha MP Saugat Roy, Aparupa Poddar, Sultan Ahmed Prasanna Banerjee and Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar. Well, the CBI in its FIR claimed that it had conducted forensic analysis of the tapes, which showed that the recordings had not been tampered with. Well, drawing a sharp reaction, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has called it a political game and said that it will fight it politically. Meanwhile, West Bengal's BJP wing has demanded immediate resignation of the tainted cabinet ministers of West Bengal. Well, in the sting operation, which was claimed to have been conducted during April to May 2014, the TMC leaders were seen purportedly accepting money from representatives of a fictitious company in return for favours. Well, NaradaNews.com had released the tapes last year just before the assembly elections.
Illegally, we are ready to fight legally, not to tell anything.
What do you think is a conspiracy as you are saying?
It's a conspiracy. It's already established. साजिश है ये तो मालूम हो गया, साबित हो गया. 2016 के चुनाव की पहले तो साजिश था, एस्टैब्लिश हो गया. मेरा कुछ बोलने का सवाल ही नहीं है, लीगल फाइट होगा.
Calcutta High Court has given a verdict. Supreme Court has upheld it. CBI, after investigation, has filed FIR against 12 TMC leaders and one serving police official. All the TMC leaders who have been named in the FIR, it enjoins on the TMC government that they should be all removed from their position that they hold in the government. But then you cannot expect much from the Trinamool Congress because this party has nothing left so far as morality is concerned, so far as principles are concerned.
Big story coming in from Jammu and Kashmir. Well, all schools and colleges in Kashmir Valley will remain shut today. Well, this comes after hundreds of students hit the streets across Valley yesterday. They were protesting against a crackdown at Pulwama College 2 days ago. The call for Monday's protest was given by a little-known students' body, Kashmir University Students' Union. More than 60 students were injured in clashes with the police and paramilitary forces. Police fired pellets, tear smoke shells and pepper grenades to quell the protests. Meanwhile, the Union Home Ministry on Monday asked the security forces to use non-penetrative plastic bullets in place of pellet guns to tackle stone pelters and violent mobs during protests in Jammu and Kashmir. However, the non-lethal pellet guns would continue to be in use as an alternative, to be used only as a last resort. The Supreme Court, remember, had last month asked the centre to consider effective means other than the use of pellet guns to quell stone pelting mobs in the state. Staying with Jammu and Kashmir, and centre on Monday reviewed the security situation in the state in order to bring normalcy in Valley. Well, the meeting, chaired by Home Minister Rajnath Singh and attended by NSA Ajit Doval, among others, took stock of the prevailing situation in the state, which saw massive violence during the 9th of April by-poll to Srinagar Lok Sabha seat. During the meeting, it was discussed whether peace dialogue with any separatist groups wielding influence on protesters could be initiated. The Home Minister had already announced that the central government was ready for talks with anyone within the framework of the Constitution, an offer the separatists are not ready to accept. The meeting also discussed how to deal with the series of videos which portray security forces in bad light. Sources say that authenticity of the videos are also a matter of a serious question, as many of them were posted in social media sites from Pakistan. An unprovoked firing by Pakistani troops on forward Indian positions along the line of control in Nowshera sector has been continuing at intermittent intervals for the last 3 days. The latest incident of ceasefire violations from across the border came at around 8 a.m. on Monday, when Pakistani troops resorted to mortar shelling besides automatics and small arms fire. Indian Army retaliated strongly and effectively. There have been no casualties or damage on the Indian side. Significantly, Pakistani troops had resorted to firing in the area on Sunday and Saturday as well. And upping the ante, Pakistan's army has ruled out consular access to Kulbhushan Yadav, who they have alleged of spying. Now, this development comes days after India had made a strong case for access to the Indian prisoner who is on a death row. Meanwhile, Indian officials have maintained that there was no communication from Pakistan on the denial of consular access. Pakistan Army has claimed that Yadav was involved in anti-state activities, so he had to face a court-martial, and that all legal requirements were fulfilled in his trial, which resulted in his conviction. Islamabad, however, has said that Yadav could appeal against the judgment in the Army Appellate Court and then to the Army Chief against the decision of the Appellate Court. He can also file an appeal in the Supreme Court and the President of Pakistan. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated a slew of projects in Surat and Dadra and Nagar Haveli on Monday. The visit assumes significance as assembly elections in Gujarat is slated for this year, and BJP could witness a fight from the Patidar community, which is seeking reservation.
On the second day of his visit to Gujarat on Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated a charitable hospital in Surat. The 400 crore rupee multi-super speciality hospital and research centre is built by a not-for-profit body, the Samast Patidar Arogya Trust. The Prime Minister indicated that the government may bring in a legal framework under which doctors will have to prescribe generic medicines that are cheaper than branded drugs to patients.
अभी हेल्थ पॉलिसी घोषित की है। अटल जी की सरकार के बाद 15 साल के बाद इस सरकार ने हेल्थ पॉलिसी लाई है, लेकिन गरीब के लिए, मध्यम वर्ग के लिए आरोग्य सेवाएं सुचारू रूप से उपलब्ध हो, उस दिशा में सरकार एक के बाद एक कदम उठा रही है। हम कानूनन व्यवस्था करने वाले हैं। डॉक्टर पर्ची लिखेंगे तो उसमें लिखेंगे कि जेनरिक दवा खरीदने के लिए उसके लिए काफी है और दवा खरीदने की जरूरत नहीं है।
Modi also inaugurated a fully automatic cattle feed plant and an ice cream plant of Sumul Dairy at Bajipura village in Tapi district. Later, in neighbouring Silvassa, the Prime Minister inaugurated a slew of government projects, including Passport Seva Kendra and the Jan Aushadhi Kendras.
हमने एक सपना संजोया है। 2022 जब आजादी के 75 साल होंगे, हमारे देश का एक भी गरीब ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए जिसके पास रहने के लिए अपना खुद का घर न हो।
Narendra Modi arrived in Surat on Sunday to a rousing reception, leading an 11-kilometer roadshow from the airport to the Circuit House. This is the Prime Minister's second visit to Gujarat and the first to the Patidar community stronghold Surat after he assumed office in 2014. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, carrying a message of friendship and the intent to strengthen bilateral ties between the two nations, Nepal's President Bidya Devi Bhandari arrived in India on Monday on a 5-day visit. Bidya Devi has a number of events lined up on her itinerary for the day today. She will be accorded a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan at 9 a.m. today. This will be followed by a wreath laying at the Rajghat. Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, Home Minister Rajnath Singh and Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will call on the visiting dignitary. She will also meet President Pranab Mukherjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to explore ways to step up cooperation between the two neighbours whose ties have faced some strains following the agitation by the Madheshi community last year. This is the first state visit of Bidya Devi Bhandari after assuming office in October 2015. Well, apart from official engagements in New Delhi, the visiting dignitary will also visit some temples in Dwarka, Somnath and Puri and offer prayers. The Nepalese president is accompanied by a high-level delegation comprising ministers, members of parliament and senior officials. On to some other news, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari yesterday underscored the need to raise the budget allocation for the education sector, especially primary education. Interacting with the students of Sharda University in Greater Noida, Ansari said that India needs to lay emphasis on research to improve its global ranking.
Pointing out that India's allocation for the education sector is lower than many other nations, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari said both the centre and states are shifting blame on each other.
Allocation, both at the central government level and at the state level, to education is abysmally low and is not targeted to achieving higher quantitative and qualitative results. It is unfortunate, but our public opinion is not willing to address this problem.
The Vice President emphasized the need to encourage research in the country. He also said India needs to recognize talent.
My thinking is that we made one fundamental mistake. We separated research from teaching. You see, the two are not separable.
The Vice President strongly advocated linking education with technology and skill development to keep pace with the changing times. Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And for more news from across the country, let's go nationwide. Canadian Defence Minister Harjit Singh Sajjan arrived in India on a 7-day visit. During his visit, both the countries are expected to explore ways to deepen bilateral defence and security cooperation. He is also expected to have wide-ranging talks with Defence Minister Arun Jaitley and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. The drivers of two apps, Ola and Uber, are expected to go on a strike for a day, protesting long working hours despite low fares. This is the second round of strike called by the drivers. The strike might hit private transport services in Delhi and neighbouring cities, as some groups of tourist taxi providers, auto rickshaw union and as per Sarvodaya Drivers Association have also extended their support to the strike. Social media platform WhatsApp's privacy policy matter has been referred to a constitution bench of Chief Justice J.S. Kher and Justice D.Y. Chandrachud by the Supreme Court. The bench will hear the issue today. As per the bench, the parties should appear before it and formulate issues to be taken up for hearing. Assam Chief Minister Sarbanan Sonowal on Monday met the Chinese ambassador to India, Luo Zhahui, and discussed various issues of mutual interest and concern. Sonowal also stressed on the need to increase people-to-people interaction and cultural exchange, which will bring the people of Assam and China closer and facilitate an environment of growth and prosperity. Controversial RJD leader Mohammad Shahabuddin was acquitted by a Jharkhand court on Monday in a triple murder case involving a railway contractor and a youth Congress leader 28 years ago due to lack of evidence. Shahabuddin currently is lodged in Tihar jail and he was produced before the court of additional session judge Ajit Kumar Singh through video conferencing and was acquitted. The triple murder had taken place at Jugusarai on 2nd of February 1989. In breakfast news, we will take a very short break here. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Jade was popular during Mughal era and gained prominence during Akbar's rule in 15th and 16th century. It came all the way from Iran and Central Asia in attractive colors. The royalty had a unique use for it. Since jade changed color when it came in contact with arsenic, they started utensils like plates, jars, bowls, and even hookah with it, and thereby avoided getting poisoned by rivals.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
One of the greatest exponents of Carnatic music, MS Subbulakshmi or MS to her fans. An icon even to a younger generation brought up on fusion and rock music. MS is the first musician ever to be awarded the Bharat Ratna, also the first Indian musician to receive the Raymond Magsaysay Award. As India's cultural ambassador, she also performed at the UN General Assembly in 1966. Former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru once said of MS, "Who am I, a mere Prime Minister, before a queen of music?"
Thanks for staying with us. Well, wholesale price inflation eased to 5.7% in March on the back of softening of prices of fuel and manufactured items. WPI inflation stood at 6.55% in February, but it was in the negative zone at minus 0.45% in March 2016. Fuel inflation declined to 18.16% from 21.02% in February. Manufactured items also witnessed a fall in prices, with inflation being recorded at 2.9% in March against 3.66% in the previous month. Food inflation, however, inched up to 3.12% in March from 2.69% in February on festival demand. On to some international news now. Well, tensions are escalating in the Korean peninsula with the heated rhetoric from both North Korea and the United States. On Monday, North Korea said that it will continue to test missiles despite international condemnation and growing military tensions with the United States. A senior official told the BBC in Pyongyang that missile tests will continue and that an all-out war could result if the US took military action. North Korea's UN Deputy Representative Kim In-ryong also issued a threat of nuclear war aimed at the United States. The developments come after US Vice President Mike Pence warned North Korea not to test the United States. He said his country's era of strategic patience with North Korea was over. Pence arrived in Seoul on Sunday, hours after North Korea carried out a failed missile launch. He warned North Korea not to test the resolve of the United States or the strength of its military forces. In order to counter North Korea, US has sent a Navy strike group towards the Korean peninsula. The US and South Korea are also moving ahead with the early deployment of a controversial missile defense system.
이자 거기에 대해서 계속 한다면 당신들 같으면 강도가 무장을 하고 자기 집에 뛰어들어가지고 가족 친척들을 다 멸살시키려고 할 때에 그 가만히 있을 사람은 하나도 없을 것이라고 생각한다고.
Between South Korea and the United States is the linchpin of peace and security, not only on the Korean Peninsula but indeed throughout the Asia Pacific. The United States' commitment to South Korea is ironclad. The President and I have great confidence that China will properly deal with North Korea. But as President Trump made it clear just a few days ago, if China is unable to deal with North Korea, the United States and our allies will.
News from Turkey. Well, allaying the widespread criticism over a referendum granting sweeping new powers to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, he warned the international election observers to know their place. Addressing crowds of flag-waving supporters from the steps of the presidential palace in Ankara, Erdogan said that Sunday's results had ended all debate on changing the constitution and creating an executive presidency. According to the election authorities, preliminary results showed 51.4% of voters had backed the biggest overhaul of Turkish politics since the founding of a modern republic in Sunday's referendum. Meanwhile, the European monitors observed that the vote did not live up to the international standards. Erdogan said that Turkey did not see, hear or acknowledge reports by the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which is an observer mission.
AGİT diye bir örgüt var Avrupa'da. Şimdi bunlar kendilerine göre bir rapor hazırlıyorlar. Türkiye'deki seçimler şöyle olmuş, böyle olmuş. Önce haddinizi bilin, haddinizi.
News from Sri Lanka now, where the authorities have moved over 400 families to temporary shelters after tons of rotting garbage collapsed onto a slum, killing at least 28 people. Some 145 homes were destroyed when a 300-foot rubbish mountain came crashing down in Colombo. Police say that many more buildings were damaged and could collapse at any time. Hundreds of rescue workers have kept up the search for survivors. President Maithripala Sirisena has instructed the authorities to ensure financial resources are not an obstacle in the relief operations. The police said that they were investigating whether the landslide was natural or man-made. Residents of the area, mostly living in shanties, had been demanding the removal of the dumps, saying that it was causing health problems to them.
So far, from the day that we have started all rescue operations up to now, we could recover 21 bodies. And still the search is on. And 4 people have been hospitalized with the injuries. That was the initial thing that we have recovered, and the process is still going on.
On to sports now, and in a big blow to former BCCI President N. Srinivasan, the Supreme Court on Monday said that he cannot represent the board at the ICC meeting, which is going to be held on 24th of April. The court also added that BCCI CEO Rahul Johri can accompany Chaudhary for the meeting. The apex court has said that it is allowing BCCI Acting Secretary Amitabh Chaudhary to represent the board at the meeting. Explaining its verdict, a bench headed by Justice Deepak Mishra stated that since Srinivasan was held guilty of a conflict of interest, he cannot be allowed to represent the BCCI in the ICC meeting. On 10th of April, the court had said that a person who is ineligible to become an office bearer in the BCCI and State Cricket Association cannot be nominated to take part in the ICC meetings. Well, that's all in this edition of news. But news and updates continue on Rajya Sabha television. Thanks for your time.